Hey everyone, TheRealLauraB back. I'm going to do a weekly roundup. I'm not going to do it every week because we may not have news, but we just had a lot going on this week between Amber's interviews, Johnny Depp's lawyer statements not too long ago, jurors speaking out, Amber releasing new information, new inadmissible exhibits. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Laura, also known as TheRealLauraB from Twitter. I'm a researcher, truth seeker, and a new wave internet journalist. I'm not a lawyer, nor offering any legal advice. Join me on a journey to draw the curtain back to expose key news developments in the world of celebrity lawsuits and current events. Let's get started. Okay, so first up is that I want to cover is share with you a little out of order, but what I think more important is the jury has spoken up. At least we're 95% sure that's what it is. So let's see what they have to say. This is a GMA exclusive. A juror in the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard defamation trial said in an interview that aired Thursday this past week that when the actress cried during the testimony, the jury saw only crocodile tears. It didn't come across as believable, he said. It seemed like she was able to flip the switch on her emotions. She would answer one question and she would be crying, and 2 seconds later, she'd turn ice cold. It didn't seem natural. Depp, he said, just seemed a little more real in terms of how he responded to questions. The juror, one of 7 jurors during the 6-week trial, spoke exclusively to GMA and is the only juror on record to speak publicly about the case. He asked to have his name not used for this report. I have to assume that they've vetted this guy somehow, whether it's ID, juror summons, something. Why would you buy the other person a knife? Heard's credibility was suspect throughout the duration of the trial, the juror said. Besides how she acted on the stand, several other factors led the jury to believe Heard was not credible, the juror said. The jury concluded they were both abusive to each other, in quotes. But Heard's team failed to prove Depp's abuse was physical. They had their husband-wife arguments. They were both yelling at each other. I don't think that makes either of them wrong or right. That's what you do when you get into an argument, I guess. But to rise to the level of what she was claiming, and there wasn't enough or any evidence that really supported what she was saying, he said. Heard, the juror said, was considered the aggressor in the relationship by the majority of the jury. If you have a battered wife or spouse situation, why would you buy the other person, the aggressor, a knife? And that was a big knife. If you really wanted to help Johnny Depp get off drugs, why are you taking drugs around him? He asked. Heard testified she'd purchased Depp a large knife as a gift, which Depp's legal team presented to the jurors. The jurors said that photographs Heard took of her ex-husband also fell flat. Although the defense used them to show Depp's decrepit state after a drug or alcohol binge, the jurors said they failed to make an impact. If you mix alcohol and marijuana, that's where you usually end up, passed out, he said. We discussed at length that a lot of the drugs she said he used, most of them were downers, and you usually don't get violent on downers. You become a zombie, as those pictures show. And I don't think this is the juror saying this. This is GMA saying. In his testimony, Depp also admitted to cocaine use, a stimulant, and Heard testified he was frequently doing the drug in her presence. I'm guessing they didn't buy that. The juror also said the jury essentially dismissed all witnesses on both sides who were employees, paid experts, family, or friends from either side. Also suspect were the photos that Amber's team presented that purported to show bruising on the actress's face. 2 photos presented near the end of the trial were not credible, the jury said. They believe the accusation by Depp's team that one photo was edited to artificially redden Heard's face to suggest bruising. Heard testified the photos looked different because of the vanity light. Well, let's be real. You can't move, take a picture, move, go turn on a light, come back and be in perfectly the exact same space, emotion, hair flying around. I mean, it's not possible. It was an exact same picture that they filtered. Those were 2 different pictures. We couldn't really tell which picture was real and which was not. The juror also said that defense failed Heard by telling them that the actress never goes outside without makeup on, he said. Yet she goes to the file restraining order without makeup on, and it just so happens her publicist is with her. Those things add up and starts to become hard to believe. The $7 million donation that never happened was a fiasco for Heard. The juror said that 4-hour debate over the difference between a pledged donation and an actual donation ended up a fiasco for Heard. Excuse me. On the stand, Heard testified she never finished donating all $7 million from her divorce settlement to 2 charities because she didn't want Depp to reap the tax benefits by sending her statements to charities directly. And that was something that Johnny's accountant brought up, that when he made the first 2 payments of $100,000 each to each charity, she threw a fit and said, you can't do that because you'll get the tax payoff. If you're going to do that, you need to submit double the amount. So I'm glad that the jury picked that up. Heard testified that a pledge and a donation are synonymous with one another and mean the same thing. The jury was shown a video of Heard on a Dutch talk show saying she gave her donation to the charities. So pledged and donated, she says, are the same. But hit and punched and slapped, they're all different. So she picks and chooses her words. The fact is, she didn't give much of it away at all. It was disingenuous. He blamed Heard's legal team for giving her poor advice, such as looking directly at the jury when responding to questions. All of us were very uncomfortable at that, he said. What I found interesting also, on the side, Dr. Hughes did that a lot. Every time they asked Dr. Hughes a question, she looked at the jury to answer almost every time. And I wonder if she got her instructions maybe from Dr. Hughes. He also said her team had sharp elbows versus being sharp. They would cut people off and cross because they wanted one specific answer without context. They were forcing people to just answer a very narrow question, which was obvious, he said. And we saw this especially with Rottenborn and Johnny. Rottenborn just reading text and saying, did I read that correct? And Johnny was not able to explain the context or anything. So I'm really glad that the jury was bothered by that. She needs better advice, he said of Heard. So publishing the 2018 op-ed in the Washington Post that defamed Depp was a poor choice, he said. If she didn't do any of this stuff with the op-eds, Johnny Depp could have helped out her career. They didn't leave things on a nasty turn when they divorced, he said. It turned nasty after the op-ed. And I find that interesting because if you think these jurors have been scanning the webs, they would have known what has been going on since 2016. They would have been known that Johnny getting all this hate about the allegations. They would have known about all her speeches she's been doing as an activist representing domestic V. I have to watch what I said. I forgot. Representing DV. So yeah, it's been tumultuous from 2016. It never really evened out. So I find this very credible. The jurors were not online at all. We only looked at the evidence. The juror denied the jury was swayed by outside forces. He said at least 3 others don't have Twitter accounts. Some people said we were bribed. That's not true. Social media did not impact us. We followed the evidence. We didn't take into account anything outside the courtroom. We only looked at the evidence. And when he says didn't take anything outside the courtroom, that was the instruction the judge gave. But it also could have been literally because they were on the grounds probably seeing some of these fans lined up. These were very serious accusations and a lot of money involved, so we weren't taking it lightly. And the judge really zoomed in on that when she gave her instructions at the end. The juror also said that no one on the jury was starstruck and their individual celebrity never played a factor in the decision. I believe that because I have to tell you, after being in that room for 6 weeks, it was just a man and a woman to me even. I mean, even though I have a lot of support for Johnny, I wasn't really thinking about, well, I definitely wasn't thinking her as a celebrity at all. Excuse me. So I can very much see that you can start getting comfortable with people that you're seeing. Ask whether he would go see a future movie starring Depp or Heard. The juror said it would depend on the movie. What they do in their personal lives doesn't affect me whatsoever. Going to movies is entertainment. I go for the quality of the movie, the storyline, not for the acting. So I thought that was interesting. Honestly, that the juror's response was that way. And the fact that the donations really played into a big part of it because I wanted to mention this information that I came up with here. I found this interesting. So there was a donation report that Children's Hospital of LA put out. And in 2018, July 2018, maybe it was earlier than that. Yeah, before April 2018, right before then, they announced up their pledge list or their donations list, and Amber Heard was listed under there between 1 million and 499 million, I think, or 4.99. So between 1 and 5 million. And right away, a lot of people jumped to the conclusion that she did in fact make her donations, and that was April 2018. What the report also showed was that it recognized donations in their full amount, but they also recognized their pledges. So I found it interesting that when I looked at her speaking, all of these things that Amber has been a part of, WE Day, Global Citizen Festival, I'm not sure about The Economist, Social Good Summit, L'Oreal, the Emory Awards, One Young World Summit. All of these engagements happened after TMZ mistakenly announced that she had indeed donated. And I don't know that that makes a difference, but I think, in my opinion, it made her look more credible and that people were wanting to work with her. That's my opinion. So then we have Johnny's lawyers finally speak out. And that was a little bit ago, but I thought I'd put them in here since Amber can't seem to stop running her mouth as a recap.
I'm here with Johnny Depp's lawyers, Camille Vasquez and Ben Chu, sitting down for their first interview since the blockbuster verdict that Depp was defamed by ex-wife Amber Heard. Welcome to you both. Camille, let me begin with you. I think the verdict surprised a lot of legal experts. They thought it was a very uphill fight from the beginning for you all. What was the key to victory?
I think the key to victory was focusing on the facts and the evidence, and Johnny's opportunity.
And everybody said defamation cases here in America are very difficult on the plaintiff. It's a huge threshold to overcome. So this was amazing that all 7 jurors could come together, not a hung jury, all come together and find for Johnny.
Speak the truth for the first time. It was 6 years in the making. And I think he was able to connect with the jury and the general public and tell what really happened in this relationship.
He wasn't in the courtroom for the verdict. What was his reaction when you told him?
He was over the moon. It was like the weight of the world had been taken off his shoulders. And I feel that finally, after 6 years, he's gotten his life back.
He also went on TikTok yesterday thanking his supporters on social media. What role did social media play in this verdict?
My view is that social media played no role whatsoever. This was a decision made by the jury on the evidence presented by both sides. And as Camille said, it was overwhelmingly in Mr. Depp's favor.
He opened up a TikTok. He got millions and millions of viewers, subscribers right away, millions of views on his Instagram for thanking everyone. No, I don't believe social media played any role in this. Amber Heard's team brought social media into the courtroom. They brought out the hashtag expert. Amber Heard sat there and said, "Go ahead, Google me." They force-fed this jury everything about the UK court and the rule, and was trying to get the ruling in. And I have to say, if those jurors were going to Google anything, it was going to be to find out about that UK court case. They would have seen the ruling, and they still found for Depp.
Ms. Heard's lawyers put out a statement yesterday saying the verdict was a setback for women's rights. And they went on to say that it's unseemly and unprofessional for you all to be, quote, taking a victory lap for setting back decades of how women can be treated in the courtroom. How do you respond to that?
I think it's disappointing. We're only speaking about what happened in this case, right? And the facts in this case were overwhelmingly positive for Johnny. And the verdict speaks for itself.
How about the broader criticism, though? It's not just from Heard's team. Victims advocates have argued that the verdict is going to have a chilling effect on domestic violence victims, and it's a blow to the Me Too movement.
I think our response to that is we encourage any victim to come forward. Domestic violence doesn't have a gender.
So you don't see this as a setback to the movement in any way, shape, or form?
We do not. We believe that the verdict speaks for itself.
This is a clear case of one person versus another person, not genders. This isn't gender-based. Amber Heard made a certain claim. Johnny took her to court. They brought their evidence. The jury agreed. That did not believe Amber. Doesn't matter what gender she is. This is not about a women's movement. This is about Mr. Depp, who lost so many years of his life, his work. He had every right to bring this in. This is mano a mano.
The facts are what they were. the jury made a unanimous decision based on those facts.
Wait, during your cross-examination, what was your impression of Ms. Heard's impression on the jury?
I think that her impression on the jury was what it was. I think something that I focused on and we focused on in that cross-examination was using her words against her. And
based on that juror's report, she did a fabulous job because they didn't find her credible at all.
It was very important for us to, every question that was asked was tied to something she had said previously. And I think the jury got to see and the world got to see and hear from Ms. Heard in that relationship on every single topic.
And George, I think there was a real contrast. Johnny took ownership of a lot of things. And it seemed at times, and perhaps it came through to the jury, that she had an answer for everything and she wasn't taking accountability for anything. And I think that made a difference.
Heard's lawyers say she plans to appeal the verdict. She doesn't have the money to pay for the judgment. And you all have said that the goal is not to impoverish Ms. Heard. Is it possible where we can see a settlement where she forgoes the appeal in return for Mr. Depp waiving any?
I can't believe that he would be asking this question if the genders were reversed. But pay attention to their answer because it's been misconstrued by a lot of outlets.
Monetary damages.
Well, George, we obviously can't disclose attorney-client communications, but as Mr. Depp testified, and as we both made clear in our respective closings, this was never about money for Mr. Depp. So this was about restoring his reputation, and he's done that.
So you're not disclosing any privileges, but it sounds like that's something that could be on the table, but it's up to Ms. Heard.
Again, we have to be careful what we say, but this was about Mr. Depp's reputation. That was what it was about for him.
Your life has changed a lot in the last several weeks. You got made partner this week. Congratulations. Both of you have also become something of social media stars. How has it changed? What does it feel like?
It's been surreal and, if I'm being honest, a bit overwhelming. But if I can be an inspiration to young women that want to go to law school and study and work hard, then it was all worth it.
You made the choice to go to Virginia for this trial. How much of a difference did that make?
I think Virginia was a good venue for some legal and other reasons, and it has a fabulous court system, tremendous judges and fair juries, and I think this the evidence was listened to carefully on both sides by the jury, and again, it came overwhelmingly in Johnny's favor.
Ms. Heard did win on one count of defamation. Will you be appealing that?
Again, I think it's premature to say, but if you look at the context of the verdict, and it was a total win for Johnny.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you very much.
So that was that. Yeah. So then, good thing they didn't commit to anything because what we found now, Amber's come out this past week. We've covered it in live streaming and stuff. Come out with interviews, making all these other claims. We've covered those, but here's the latest thing that she's done. Peace.
Is there one piece of evidence that you wish the jury had seen that you could point to? You say, this would have made the difference.
Yeah.
What is it?
There's a binder worth of years of notes dating back to 2011 from the very beginning of my relationship that were taken by my doctor, who I was reporting the abuse to.
He says he's never struck any woman. His lawyers argued at trial. None of his other prior relationships, not one woman has come forward and said he physically hit them. You were the only one.
Look what happened to me when I came forward. It was you.
Wow, I'm so disappointed. Well, I'm not going to see the Dateline tonight, but I hope Savannah came up with, Kate Moss stepped forward. Vanessa Paradis has come forward in the news. Winona Ryder came forward to support him. So I hope they've done their homework.
And you can see much more of Savannah's conversation with Amber Heard during tonight's special edition of Dateline, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, right here on NBC.
So what is some of the information that they're talking about with this binder and these journals? So what Amber is claiming, that she has submitted a lot of evidence. Well, they both submitted evidence, and it was up to It was up to the judge to decide. And here we have, in fact, this is from Amber Heard's exhibit list. She has Bonnie Jacobs' medical records. And down here we have that Mr. Depp did file objections. Now remember, they both filed. This is pre-trial. This paperwork is pre-trial. He filed lack of foundation, lack of authentication, hearsay, irrelevant, unfairly prejudicial, incomplete. So this was all done prior in pretrial hearings. So this was not done during the week of the, if you remember right, every Friday, court went from Monday to Thursday, and then Friday they were still meeting and hashing these things out. So we have some more, this is what they released. This is just simple. Someone took a screenshot of, I guess it was a Peacock preview last night, and this is what we'll be seeing in the Dateline. He hit her, threw her on the floor. So it has confidential, has her name, has redactions. These look like they could be therapist notes. Bonnie Jacobs is a therapist. She's possibly a doctor too. I didn't research her. But the fact that she's a therapist, she's meant to listen to you. She's meant to hear your problems. She's meant to take you as fact to help you why you're stating these experiences, so what your emotions are in these experiences. She's not meant to find out if these experiences are true. And that's important. They're not there to investigate. This therapist isn't going to take blood, not going to take x-rays, not going to do an internal check. They're going to strictly hear what you have to say and help you work through those emotions. I would hope if she believed that Mr. Depp was really harming her, she would have taken some legal actions to protect her. So why is she doing this? Well, let's remember what Dr. Curry said, and I'm going to have to revisit her testimony, but she said that she diagnosed Amber Heard with histrionic personality disorder, characterized by long-standing pattern of attention-seeking behavior, extreme emotionality, wants to be the center of attention. She feels uncomfortable when she's not. This is important. Having difficulty when people aren't focused exclusively on her, on them. Here's my opinion, that when Johnny and her first got together, she was thrilled. I got the Johnny Depp. Well, so was her family and friends. And I think after a while, and this is strictly my opinion, that they were falling in love with Johnny and paying Johnny so much attention. And suddenly Amber Heard took the back seat. This is my opinion. And I don't think she liked that. So I think she tried to relate to her family and friends like, hey, life isn't so rosy. Life isn't so easy. So I think she tried to turn to victim herself, to make herself a victim. And it got her attention and it worked for her. And she continued that. That's my opinion. Yeah. It's unfortunate that while Johnny is looking to move forward with his life, the defendant and her team are back to repeating, reimagining, relitigating matters that have already been decided by the court, and a verdict that was unequivocally decided by a jury in Johnny's favor. Not only unequivocally, 100%, all 7 jurors found for Johnny. That's huge. That's huge. So Amber Heard's talking about this binder, and I did remember hearing about it at some point, hearing that word. So I decided to do some looking, and just for clarification, this is what I found. Elaine had filed their exhibit list. And this is hers. This is defendant and counterclaim plaintiff Amber Laura Heard's exhibit list. And I want to make that clear because it gets confusing in this paragraph. Plaintiff intends to make use of demonstrative evidentiary techniques at trial. This may include the use of a jury notebook, selecting certain exhibits and making copies in binders for the jurors, enlarged exhibits, and the use of drawings, colors, I'm going to get back to that, chart summaries, or highlighting of portions of select exhibits. I think colors, she means these color tabbing, but when I first read it, I thought, is that the color filters she's using for her phone, her photos, drawings, and colors? Well, that's interesting. So that's the first time I remembered hearing about a binder. So I did some digging and I found this. This is what Elaine Bredehoft had said in her opening statement. Very slow. Elaine Bredehoft, another one of Heard's attorneys, said that evidence would show, this is her opening statement, that Heard was physically and verbally abusive to Depp. She said that Heard wanted to protect Depp and that she didn't want his children or the public to know about the abuse. However, Heard did confide in her therapist, Bonnie Jacobs, who has notes dating back to 2011. Jacob chronicles the first time that Amber tells her that Johnny hit her, and it goes through into 2012, 2013, 24, and you will see that you will hear from Bonnie Jacobs, her saying this is a cycle of violence. This is a cycle of abuse. You can't enable him. You need to stand up for yourself. And I found that interesting because, first of all, Bonnie Jacobs never took the stand. She was on Amber Heard's witness list. Mr. Depp, through the defense, did not object to her as a witness. She was supposed to testify live link, and she was a no-show. Oh, this is impossible to read. This is Amber Heard's statements, her UK statement, and her statement here in her declaration that the first instance she can remember is in March of 2013, which was with the tattoo incident. So that was the first thing she could remember. Here, Bonnie Jacobs, and that column is for live link. And she was a no-show. They never called her to the stand. New York Post is reporting the case. This is the actual ongoing part of the case. When Amber Heard is taking the stand to describe harrowing attacks. So this is while she's on the stand, they're reporting, ranging from the first time he allegedly struck her, to an incident in which she says he broke her nose in rage. She said Depp first hit her March 2013 because of the wino tattoo. She's testified in Virginia court about this. Then they go on the break, 1 week break. Somebody's reviewing her testimony. She's doing it by herself or she has help. I don't know. And they see a lot of flaws and they decide we're going to try and find a way to fix this. And that's when I think the therapist notes were going to come in. But they were running out of time. They had to pay their time. And I don't think there was time for Bonnie Jacobs to come on, or it was a bluff witness, because we've had those two that people just were never called. So I don't know what happened there. So then what happens? Obviously, Depp is given a statement that he's very upset about these interviews. I don't know what his legal team is going to do in Virginia, but I hope, seeing this go forward over a week and these counter comments by them in the press, that I hope they do something as far as maybe even an injunction. But let's take a look at the latest statement. Amber throws down the gauntlet. Heard challenges Johnny Depp to do his own TV interview. If he has a problem with her Dateline sit-down in which she reveals she has a binder full of notes from the therapist that prove he threatened to kill her, come on and make your own interview. This is horrible. This is so unnecessary. I can't believe they've given this statement. Amber Heard has challenged her ex-husband Johnny Depp to do his own TV interview. Quote, if he had a problem with her repeating her defamatory allegations that he beat her during an explosive sit-down with NBC's Dateline, in which she reveals that she has a binder full of therapist notes, which she claims prove her accusations that he physically and sexually abused her. The 36-year-old actress issued the bold ultimatum to her former spouse via a spokesperson on Friday, hours before her interview with the Today Show. So if it was hours before, it gives me the impression that Depp team had some kind of heads up. If Mr. Depp or his team have a problem with this, we recommend that Johnny himself sit down with Savannah Guthrie for an hour and answer all her questions, the spokesperson told the Daily Mail. A series of clips have been aired all this week. Preview on Peacock last night, and tonight is the Dateline show. Here's my issue with that. I hope to God Johnny doesn't give an interview, because you know what he did? He already did. He sat in that courtroom for 6 weeks. He got on the stand twice, answered everybody's questions. They had their opportunity to do their own interview, if you will. He asked and answered for days, and then he was brought back up again. So that's his interview. He doesn't need to talk to the public anymore. The entire thing has been viewed, recorded, and memorialized on YouTube, on the various news YouTube channels. So no, he doesn't need to give his interview. He said everything he needs to say, and I hope they find a way to shut her down. I have seen I'm going to close this out with just a debunking of something. I have seen people mentioning that Johnny Depp forced the live stream. It was actually the court's own motion because they were concerned about the crowds. They were inundated with a lot of requests. So the court themselves made a motion, a pre-trial motion, to put cameras in the court. They were misheard. They were under protective order not to talk about any of Amber Heard's claims of SA or DV. They were not allowed to. There was a protective order. The pre-trial hearing was on an open web link. Elaine Braderhoff herself, not Johnny Depp, not because of the trial being televised, she herself exposed her client. And I'll show you, I can prove this. In the pre-trial conference, Courthouse News was on the link, and they were the first to release the story. And this is February 25th, because she was on the phone on the web link when Elaine was arguing, because of the nature of the case, including SV, cameras should not be allowed in Fairfax. And of course, Depp did not oppose it. Virginia courts may solely at its discretion decide this. She took a step further, and Braderhoff said Heard was a victim of assault, including during and before her marriage. Elaine said that on the phone, on the WebEx call, on an open public WebEx call, and this author was on it, this writer, reporter, and she did in fact report it. So no, this was not Depp's team releasing that. Her own attorney had already put it out. And then on top of it, let's say they decided they were going to backtrack and not do it, her attorney put it in her opening statements too. So I know that's a lot to take in. Tonight is the Dateline. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people reporting on it. I went through my list. I want to thank you for joining me, and we'll see how these goes. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you soon. Oh, coming up, I'm going to start my deep dive series on Brooks versus Depp. And I've got a lot of documents that I had to pay for myself. So I appreciate any help in the tips jar. I'll put that link in the description, but it's also on my About tab. So thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Talk soon. Bye-bye.